Dear students, today we will discuss a topic which was left, and this topic is air mass. AIR, air, MASS, mass. So we will discuss about the topic air mass. So before understanding the air mass, let's discuss what is air. You know that in my earlier lecture, I have told you that our environment consists of air, atmosphere, hydrosphere, lithosphere, and biosphere. So atmosphere is the very important constituent of the environment. And what is atmosphere? It is the gaseous covering which is present around the earth, which is surrounding the earth. So in this gaseous covering, there are different types of gases like nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide, neon, helium, krypton, xenon, hydrogen. Different types of gases are there, but major gases are nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide, like gases are there. So our atmosphere contains gases, and these gases constitute atmosphere. What happens when such gases perform the movement from one region to another region? So some changes takes place. Whenever atmospheric gases, the block of atmospheric gas, a piece of atmospheric gas perform movement from one area to another area, wind blows. Okay, so whenever air perform a movement, wind develops. So why these gases perform the movement? Gases perform the movement because of the difference in temperature between 2 points. For example, we know that our Earth is a spheroid, and it has a equator and it has a polar region. So you know that temperature of equatorial region is high as compared to the temperature of the polar region. So this difference in temperature results the movement of colder air into equatorial region, because there is a difference in temperature as well as difference in pressure also. So on polar region, there is a high pressure, low temperature, and on equatorial region, there is a low pressure as well as high temperature. So the temperature difference between polar region as well as between equatorial region results the movement of atmospheric gases from polar region to equatorial region. That is from high pressure areas to the low pressure areas. So whenever such type of movement of air or its gases happens, the wind blows, and we say that there is a movement of air mass. So what is air mass? A block of air when perform movement from one region to another region because of difference in temperature as well as pressure, then such type of movement of air is called as air mass movement. So firstly, we need to know what is air mass. Air mass is nothing but a block of air of a particular region which has a specific temperature, which has a specific humidity. So that is air mass. And I have told that why air mass perform movement, because there is a difference between temperature between 2 points. And on the area where temperature is high, the pressure will be low. And the area, just like the case of equatorial region, on equatorial region, the temperature is high. So in these areas, the atmospheric pressure is low. If you talk about the polar region, where temperature is low and atmospheric pressure is very high. So the movement of air takes place from high pressure area to low pressure area. That is from polar region to, you can say, equatorial region. So that's how air movement takes place. So we will discuss what are the different types of air masses. So before going into the details, let's just have a look on our atmosphere. So I would like to uh, explain you with the help of a slide. Just have patience and presentation. Share screen. Okay. So I am sure that you would be watching this slide. Okay, students, you can see this is our, on left hand side, this is our earth. Blue color, this structure is called as earth, and the gaseous covering which is surrounding the earth is its atmosphere, which had different types of layer: troposphere, stratosphere, mesosphere, thermosphere, as well as exosphere. So the atmosphere is a gaseous covering, and different types of gases are there. You may see different types of gases: nitrogen, oxygen, argon, carbon dioxide. Different types of gases are there which constitute our atmosphere. Okay, so the gases which are present in our atmosphere constitute air. Okay, and when the air perform movement from one place to another place, we say that wind is blowing. So why the gases, why the air perform movement? Because there is a difference in temperature and pressure between 2 points, between two poles. For example, if you talk about, yes, this is our earth. You might have seen the structure of the earth on the basis of latitude as well as longitude. So you can see that our earth has been divided different horizontal lines, and these horizontal lines are called as latitude. So what are the different regions on the basis of latitude? The middle line is called as equatorial line or equator. The latitude is 0. And when we move towards northern or southern hemisphere, so after that, Tropic of Cancer, Tropic Arctic Circle, and North Pole. Similarly, in southern hemisphere, Tropic of Capricorn, after equatorial region, after equator, yeah, you can say tropics, then Antarctic Circle and South Pole. You may see that the latitude at equator is 0, and the latitude at Arctic region, or you can say North Pole, it is 90. So you must know that the temperature at equatorial region is very high. Okay, and the temperature in polar region, that is Arctic region, here the temperature is low. So when there is a difference in temperature, what happens? The effect is on the pressure. So in high temperature area, what happens? The expansion of gases takes place, and because of that, the movement of air, the low pressure areas are created, and to fill these low pressure areas, the wind comes, the air comes from the region of low temperature to fill this gap, and the movement of air takes place because of the difference in temperature. So we may say that the wind blows from colder region to warmer region, because of the difference in temperature as well as in difference in pressure. So wind always blows because of the difference in temperature between 2 points. So equators are having huge high temperature, and polar regions have low temperature. So equators have high pressure, low pressure areas, and the polar regions have high pressure areas. So you know that whenever there is a difference in pressure also, so air moves from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. So by this mean, the movement of air takes place from high pressure areas or low temperature to the region of low pressure areas and high temperature. So whenever this movement of air takes place, wind blows, and this movement, we say that the air mass is moving. So air is present on equator, air is also present on polar region, means gases are present on equator, gases are also present on polar region. When these gases move, and the block, the portion of the air is called as air mass, whether it is a case of latitude, North Pole, that is on Arctic region, or whether it is a case of equatorial region, means wherever on the earth any block of gases is present, that block of gas is called as air mass. You know that if there is a equatorial region. Suppose that if a block of gas is present there, so that block of gas will represent the characteristics of that particular region. For example, I told you the case of equator. On equator, the temperature is very high, okay, and the moisture content is very low. So whatever block will be there in this particular region, it will be characterized by high temperature as well as you can say low moisture content. Uh, Similarly, if you talk about polar region, you know that on polar region, if any block is there, if any gaseous block is there, if any air mass is there, so that air mass will represent the properties of polar region. And you know that what are the properties of polar region? Low temperature as well as lack of moisture. So the air masses represent the properties of that particular region. And suppose that if these air masses are present on the water, above the surface of the water in any ocean, so they will represent the properties of that particular oceanic environment. For example, over the oceans, humidity is there. So the air mass which is present on the ocean surface will represent the moisture content as well as high temperature. So you came to know about what are the air masses. So by these two photographs, you might have seen firstly what is air and why air perform movement. Air perform the movement because of the difference in temperature between 2 points. Air always moves from the region of low temperature to the region of high temperature. Okay, because the high temperature region are characterized by low pressure and low temperature region are characterized by high pressure, and things always move from high pressure areas to low pressure areas. So this is the first important point. After that, I will discuss the height up to which the normally air masses can be tracked down. So if you go up into the sky up to the height of 16 kilometer, okay, from ground level up to the height of 16 kilometer, air masses can be tracked. Means the movement of air can takes place. So up to what height air masses move? They move up to the height of 16 kilometer. So one important aspect is there. I would like to show a slide which will show you how air mass looks like. So you can see this is the earth surface, and air over this earth surface is called air mass. This is earth surface, green color, and air above this earth surface is a air mass, and this air mass represent the property of this particular region. Okay, so this is air mass. So you can see the air masses form over large surface with uniform temperature and humidity. Okay, so whatever air masses are there, they have two properties. They have uniform temperature as well as humidity. So whatever air mass is there, whether it belongs to polar region or whether it belongs to equatorial region, they will represent two properties, temperature and humidity. Okay, these are the two important parameters of air mass. So sometimes what happens when wind blows very in great speed, what happens? Suppose that any air mass is present in a particular area. So when there is a intense speed of the wind, what will happen? This air mass will be carried out very quickly. Okay. And when the speed of the wind, you can say is low, the air mass will remain stagnant. They will persist on that particular area for a longer period of time. So wind speed determines, you can say, the location of the air masses. When wind speed is very high, the block of the air, that is air mass, will perform its movement from one place to another place. But when the speed of the air is slow, the air mass will not perform movement. They will be, you can say, they will remain stagnant on that particular area. So when this is second important thing, I told you that air masses have two types of properties, temperature as well as humidity. And second important thing is that when the movement of air mass depends on the speed of the wind. If it is very high, air masses will travel more faster from one region to another region. When wind speed is very low, the air present on that particular area or the mass of the air will not move very fastly. Okay. Third important thing is that whenever the air mass move from one place to another place, so what happen? What will happen? They will carry, I have said that they have these two properties, temperature and humidity. So whenever the movement of air takes place from one region to another region, they may carry the weather conditions. Means if they are high in temperature, if they have high humidity, and if they are moving from one place to another place, they will make the place more hotter and more moist. Okay. उनकी जो भी प्रॉपर्टीज होती हैं एयर मास की, अगर वो बहुत उनका टेम्परेचर ज्यादा है और मॉइस्चर कंटेंट ज्यादा है, तो वो जहां पे जाएंगी वहां का भी टेम्परेचर वो इंक्रीज कर देंगी और जो मॉइस्चर लेवल है उसको वो इंक्रीज कर देंगी. ओके. और इस तरीके से उस पर्टिकुलर जहां पे वो जाएंगी यानी जो उनका डेस्टिनेशन होगा वहां की जो प्रॉपर्टीज होंगी उसको वो बदल देंगी. तो एयर मासेस हैव स्ट्रॉन्ग टेंडेंसी टू इन्फ्लुएंस, टू अफेक्ट the regional weather conditions of that particular region. For example, a very fine example I wish to share with you. Suppose that if there is a snowfall on upper altitude, that is, suppose that upper Himalaya, there is a intense snowfall. What will happen? The air will perform movement and it will come to planar area, and whenever it will come to the planar area, the temperature of the plains will decrease. So you might have noticed that whenever snowfall takes place and colder waves comes from those regions to our region gets cold. So whenever air masses perform movement, they have the tendency to change the atmospheric conditions, or you can say weather conditions of particular area. If they have great moisture content, so they may result the intense rainfall in that particular area. So air masses are basically responsible for changing in local weather conditions. And one more interesting thing happens. When two air masses of a region or different region collide with each other. What happens? Suppose that this is one air mass, this is second air mass. I have told you they perform the movement because of the difference in temperature and pressure. When these two mass collide with each other, what happens? The storm-like situation creates. Why storm-like situation create? Because two air masses collide with each other. Lightning may be there. Okay. So when forcefully these two air masses collide with each other, the lightning is there. Okay. So this is another extreme weather phenomenon, and severe storm can be created. And the boundary where these two air masses collide with each other is called as front. Front, front. So this was the another thing about air masses. So let's discuss what are the different types of air masses. So firstly, I told you what are air mass, what are their how they perform movement, and what are the two important basic properties of air mass. And if you talk about the types of air mass, so there are basically four categories of the air masses: Arctic air masses, tropical air masses, polar air masses, and equatorial air masses. So you very well understand what is Arctic region, what is tropical region, what is polar region, and what is equatorial region. So Arctic air masses form in Arctic region. Okay. And you know that Arctic region is very cold region. They are very, you can say, dry region. Their because of the lack of the moisture. Second, tropical air masses, which are formed on lower latitude. And you know that tropical region are very hot. they have a great temperature, they have elevated temperature. Again, polar air masses, they are formed on polar region, that is on very high latitude, that is up to the latitude 90 degree. Okay, and such polar regions are also very cold. Okay, so you will be surprised, you would have been surprised to know that, sir, Arctic region and polar region looks like very similar. Okay, so may I tell you, when you talk about polar region, okay, I would like to, yes, when you talk about polar region means high latitude. That is the area which is on the very point of this particular pole. Okay, so that region will be called as polar region. And when you talk about Arctic Circle, so from Arctic Circle extends from the very high latitude area towards lower latitude up to the latitude of 66.5 degree. Okay, so the region between 66.5 degree and 90 degree is called as Arctic region. And if you talk about what is polar region, so pole means a particular point. Okay, so that's why I am saying polar region as well as Arctic region. So I was depicting you the types. Similarly, equatorial air masses that develops near the equator and are warm. Okay, similarly, there is a difference between tropical air masses and equatorial air masses. Equatorial air masses are the air masses which get developed on equatorial line. What is the equatorial line? This is the equatorial line. Okay, whatever air masses are developed on this particular line, they are called as equatorial air masses. And the region between the 0 degree latitude to 23 degree 23.5 degree, this particular region is known as tropical region. Okay, so that is why the fourth type of air mass is, you can say, tropical air masses. Okay, so these are the four basic types of different types of air masses. So the air masses, as I have told, that they are identified based on their source. If they are getting originated from polar region, we will call them polar air masses. If they are getting created on equatorial region, we will call them equatorial air masses. If they are getting originated from polar region, we will say that polar air masses. So whatever the point of origin is there, we name the air mass according to that point of origin. So one more important thing is there. You came to know that air masses have been classified on the basis of latitude. Okay, latitude means equatorial region, uh, tropical region, okay, Arctic region as well as polar region. So there is another second important parameter. On that basis, air masses can also be classified. The basis is land and water. You know that on our Earth surface, some part is in the form of land and some part of in the form of water. So when air masses originate, okay, from water, suppose that there is a Pacific Ocean, and if any air mass is present or getting created over the Pacific Ocean, then you can say it is maritime air mass. Okay, whenever air masses which are getting originated over the surface of the water, then you can say they are maritime air masses. Means maritime air masses are created over the surface of the water. They have a huge amount of moisture, because you know that on the surface of the water, evaporation takes place at a very high scale, on a very high scale. That's why the air masses which are formed on the surface of the water, they carry great moisture. Okay, similarly, there is another type of air masses which are creating on the surface of the earth. I have told you, on our earth surface, water is there and land is there. So the air masses which are getting created over water can be called as maritime air masses, and the air masses which are getting formed on a land surface, they are called as continental air masses. Okay, continental air masses. So both continental air masses and maritime air masses, they have the property of the region from where they have been created. So if you talk about continental air masses, so continental air masses may have a dry property. They may not contain a huge amount of moisture, but they may characterize with high temperature. Okay, so the property of air depends on the point from where they are getting originated. So on weather map, if you see the weather map, different types of air masses are represented with the help of lowercase as well as uppercase. Okay, on if you see the global air mass map, you will see that the air masses are represented with the help of some lower cases as well as with the help of some upper cases. So if any air mass is represented by you can say lowercase. So what does it mean? Lowercase describes the amount of moisture in the air. For example, M, small m stands for maritime. It indicates it will be moist. Okay. I have told that if any air mass is getting created over the ocean, it will contain high moisture content. So small m indicates moisture, moist or maritime. Similarly, if continental air mass is there, so continental air mass will be represented by small c. Okay, and it indicates dry. So two things are there in this point, moist and dry. So lowercase on a air mass map, lowercase indicates the amount of the moisture. Similarly, what uppercase describes, that is just like capital E. Capital K describes equatorial air mass. Capital T describes tropical air mass. Capital M describes monsoon, means equatorial air mass. P stands for polar air mass. Capital A stands for Arctic and Antarctic air mass, and a special category is there, S, which stands for a unique situation with dry air found by a powerful downward motion of the atmosphere. So if you see basic uppercase letters, that is E stands for equatorial air mass, T stands for tropical air mass, M stands for monsoon. Monsoon basically it is a tropical air mass, example of tropical air mass. M stands for monsoon, sorry, monsoon air mass getting developed during the period of monsoon. So we represent the air mass during monsoon period with the capital letter M, and P stands for polar. So this is the, you can say, nomenclature. If you see on this map, you can see the different types of letters are used. For example, if we see this particular point, ME, small m and capital E, this stands for maritime equatorial. You know that this is equatorial region. This is equatorial line. So the air mass near this equatorial line is small m and capital E. Small m indicates that it is getting created over water, and capital E stands for region on where it is present. It is present on equatorial region. And second example, you can see this is CT. What is CT? Small c indicates continent, and capital T indicates tropical. I have told that when we move from equatorial line towards pole, the region up to the latitude 40 degree, from 0 degree to 40 degree, it comes under tropical region. So this is land. You can see whitish part here, water is not there. So it is a continent. So air mass getting created over continent is represented by small c, and the region is a tropical region. So this is the second example. If you go to third important example, this is CA. Again, C stands for continent. Okay, this is a, and capital A stands for Arctic region. Okay, Arctic region. So small c indicates continent, and capital A indicates, you can say, Arctic region. Similarly, such type of nomenclature you can see everywhere. You can see the example of Pacific Ocean. Here, small m indicates maritime, means here water is present, and capital T indicates here tropical region is there. So such type of classification is there, and we represent air masses on map with the help of small letters as well as capital letters. So if you want to see the air types of the air masses, you can again see the types of air masses: continental, maritime, tropical, polar. So first, what are continental air masses? I have said that the air masses which are present, which are created over land mass, called as continental air masses. Maritime air masses, or you can say oceanic air masses, these are the air masses which are created over the surface of the water. They are called as maritime air masses. And tropical air masses, which are getting created over tropical region. Okay. And the polar air masses which are getting created on the poles means here the degree of latitude it up to 90 degree. Okay, so I have described what lowercase describes, what uppercase describes, so you need to understand. So if in conclusion we can say air masses are huge bodies of air often extending for several thousand miles. Air masses have the unique properties, that is temperature and humidity, and there are four types of important types of air masses: continental, maritime, tropical, polar. And as the air masses perform movement from one place to another place, they have the strong tendency to alter, to change the local weather conditions. If they have high heat, they will make the area hotter. If they have high moisture content, they may result high precipitation in that particular area. And if they have low temperature, they may, you can say, lower down the temperature of that particular area. So you have to prepare this question. This is very important for you from exam point of view. What are air masses? What is air mass? What are their different types? And how we represent on global scale on air mass map. You can again see different types of examples which have been represented. So that is all for this point of discussion, and hope you will prepare yourself accordingly. And I would suggest that you must prepare this topic, as again I am saying that this is important aspect, and unfortunately we could not discuss this topic, and due to a urgent meeting yesterday. But no problem, I would say that please access this lecture and you will be benefited. Okay, so I am going to stop the discussion.